The day Shan Sua discovered she was pregnant, she slapped divorce papers across my face. "Xiang man, let's get divorced. We're not a good match." I was kicked out of the Shan family home like a stray dog, drowning in debt overnight. Debt collectors came knocking, forcing me to sell my organs. In the end, I bled to death. Meanwhile, Shan Sua was a blissful newlywed, whispering sweet nothings to her old flame. Then I was reborn, back to the third year of my secret marriage with Shan Sua. This time, I would turn the tables. In my previous life, the violent debt collectors had found an unlicensed quack who, without any anesthesia, tore out my liver and kidney. I lost too much blood and blacked out. When I opened my eyes again, I didn't see the black and white reapers I had expected, ready to lead me across the bridge of oblivion. Instead, I was lying in the marital bedroom I shared with Shan Sua. That's when I realized, I had been reborn. It had to be the third year of my secret marriage with her, and today was the day she went to the hospital for a checkup. In my previous life, it was also on this very day that Shan Sua returned glowing with joy, holding a positive pregnancy report. Before I could even feel happy, she pulled divorce papers from her bag and, in front of the entire Shan family, threw them straight into my face. "I'm pregnant, Xiang man. Let's get divorced. We're not a good match." That same night, I was thrown out of the Shan family home. Overnight, I fell from being the Shan family's celebrated live-in son-in-law to a debt-ridden outcast. After 3 years of secret marriage with Shan Sua, I died after debt collectors forcibly took my kidney and liver, while she and her beloved Qin Haiyu held a lavish wedding. Fortunately, I had been reborn. In this life, I would never allow Shan Sua to trample over me like that again. Everything I lost in my past life, I would reclaim in this one, every last bit. I pulled my thoughts back to the present, stretched slightly, and felt a dull ache throughout my body. Just then, the butler entered carrying a bowl of ginseng soup, his face glowing with excitement. "Young master, the young miss is pregnant. Hurry downstairs and see her." For 3 years, as the Shan family's live-in son-in-law, everyone in the household, from top to bottom, had treated me with the utmost respect. On the very day we registered our marriage, my father-in-law invested 10 million into my biotech company and gifted us the most expensive villa in Roshing as our marital home. No matter how my parents tried to stop me from becoming a live-in son-in-law, I was determined to marry Shan Sua. For 3 years after our marriage, we lived in perfect harmony. Shan Sua said she wanted a child. For those 3 years of preparation, I hadn't touched a drop of alcohol. I slept early, woke early, and exercised diligently, all so she could conceive a healthy baby. The past was too painful to dwell on. I finished the soup and went downstairs in my slippers. Everyone in the Shan family was gathered in the living room, surrounding Shan Sua, chatting and laughing cheerfully. The moment she saw me, her gaze turned cold. "You're so frail. Just a little rain and you get a fever." Last night, it had been raining when I went to pick her up from her company. I had only one umbrella and held it entirely over her. The strong wind and my soaked clothes caused me to develop a fever by midnight. In the past, she would have asked softly, "Hubby, are you feeling unwell? Should we see a doctor?" But now, she couldn't even hide her disdain. I changed the subject. "The butler said you're pregnant." Shan Sua looked displeased. Touching her stomach, she said flatly, "Yes. Just 1 month." I sat beside her in silence. She glanced at me, then finally spoke. "Xiang man, let's get divorced." It was the same scene as my previous life. The difference was that this time, I felt no sadness at all. Is it because of Qin Haiyu? I deliberately mentioned her old flame. She denied it immediately. "No. We just don't have anything in common to talk about." That was true. She studied art and performing arts, while I worked in biotech and healthcare. Our worlds were completely different. "Fine," I said calmly. "I respect your choice. Let's discuss the divorce settlement. She stared at me in disbelief. She probably thought my pride would prevent me from asking for compensation. Unfortunately for her, she was wrong. After experiencing the Shan family's betrayal in my previous life, I had long since buried any lingering feelings. Shan Suo looked at me for a long time before saying with disappointment, "Young man, you've changed. You weren't like this before." "I wasn't the only one who changed," I replied. We had both been top students at Ring University, meeting at our senior graduation gala. She was a dancer on stage, I was the outstanding graduate representative giving a speech. At the time, my biotech company had just been registered and was still in its infancy. In the audience sat Shan Suo's father, a renowned real estate tycoon. He saw potential in my company, praised me as the province's top scholar, intelligent and good-looking, and expressed interest in investing. Encouraged by her father, Shan Suo and I began seeing each other more often. My parents were working class. Compared to the Shan family's massive conglomerate, we were hardly equals. Faced with Shan Suo's affection, I felt both flattered and lost. My parents strongly opposed the marriage, but Shan Suo insisted, love conquers all. Determined to marry in, the Shans casually gifted us luxury cars and mansions. Though our marriage remained secret publicly, my rising reputation was well known in business circles. Everyone praised me as Boss Shan's prized son-in-law, and the Shan family constantly urged us to have a child. It wasn't until they kicked me out like a stray dog that I realized their meticulous scheming had only one purpose, to use me to father their child. Everything I once did to make Shan Suo happy now felt like a cruel joke. No matter how much I gave her, it could never compare to even the smallest romantic gesture from Qin Haiyu. I didn't refute her words. I admitted it, I had changed. I had learned to face reality. I carefully reviewed every clause of the divorce agreement, terrified the Shans might set another trap. "This clause needs to be added," I said. The 10 million provided back then was an investment. Projects involve risk. Even if the company fails, I cannot be held liable for the debt. Shan Suo watched me intently, her focused expression mirroring how I used to present financial reports to her. "This part is wrong too," I continued. "The house and cars gifted at our wedding are all under your name. The marital assets need to be redivided. And this, if the child is born safely, visitation rights should be handled through legal channels. That would be fair to both sides." I made multiple revisions. She raised no objections. After the agreement was reprinted, we both signed it. Like me, she wanted it finalized as soon as possible, afraid any delay would cause trouble. 3 years of secret marriage, and I was finally free. The ink on the divorce papers hadn't even dried when Shan Suo eagerly began planning her wedding with Qin Haiyu. The alliance between a real estate magnate's daughter and a prestigious scholarly family shook all of Roshing. She was an elegant dancer, he was a celebrity with massive online fame, a talented man and a beautiful woman, a match made in heaven. Behind Shan Suo's back, Qin Haiyu personally sent me a wedding invitation, requesting my presence and blessings. With a clear conscience, what did I have to fear? Why wouldn't I go? On the wedding day, I was impeccably dressed in a tailored suit, having taken great care with my appearance. I handed my carefully prepared red envelope to the attendant at the gift registry. When it was opened, it revealed 666 yuan, amid gifts worth tens of thousands. Mine stood out sharply, conspicuous and humiliatingly modest. The person handling the gift registry looked up and asked politely, "May I have your name, esteemed guest? Are you a friend or a relative of the bride or the groom?" I cleared my throat and deliberately raised my voice. "Oh, write down young man. I'm the bride Shan Suo's ex-husband, and the groom Qin Haiyu's junior from university." A hush instantly fell over the hall, followed by a wave of whispered chatter. Qin Haiyu had clearly thought I wouldn't dare show up. I had come precisely to make their wedding as uncomfortable as possible. What's going on? I've never heard of the Shan family having a son-in-law before. And a live-in one at that. I heard Miss Sean conceived through a sperm donor. Is that true? Nonsense. Why would the illustrious Sean family need Xiang Man for that? For his looks? Maybe. More likely, they wanted superior genes. Keep your voice down. What if Qin Haiyu overhears the sperm donor talk? So what are they implying, that Qin Haiyu isn't smart enough? Or not handsome enough? Best to stay quiet and watch how this unfolds. The guests buzzed with excitement, everyone eager to add fuel to the gossip. Hearing the chatter, the bride and groom froze in place, their expressions stiff and awkward. I headed to the restroom, and Shan Sua stormed in after me, furious. Xiang Man, what exactly are you trying to do? I looked at my reflection as I wiped my face and replied with complete sincerity. I'm here to offer my heartfelt blessings. Is it because of your 666 yuan gift? She snapped. Is that your way of mocking us? Her face flushed crimson as she stepped closer. Xiang Man, I know you're bitter about the divorce, but don't worry. The Shan family won't treat you unfairly. The money will be transferred to your account in a few days. Excellent, I said calmly. I'll look forward to the good news. I turned to leave, but she spoke again. Xiang Man, I know you were good to me. But Haiyu is the one I truly love. You'll find your own happiness someday, too. I sneered inwardly. Typical sanctimonious hypocrisy, use someone up, then tell them they deserve better. My happiness had already died before my rebirth. All I wanted now was to protect what was rightfully mine. When Qin Haiyu saw Shan Sua come out of the restroom behind me, his expression darkened. He grabbed her wrist so hard she gasped in pain. Why were you with him? What were you doing? He snapped. You're hurting me. Sua, you promised you wouldn't see him again. This is our wedding. If people see this, how am I supposed to face them? I left quickly, having no interest in watching that scumbag and his bride tear into each other. Moments later, I heard a sharp slap echo behind me. Shan Sua's spoiled temper must have erupted. Qin Haiyu was probably on the receiving end. The wedding reception wasn't even over when my company's finance department called. Mr. Xiang, the Shan family has withdrawn their 10 million yuan investment. Just as I had foreseen. Even with a second chance at life, the Shan family abandoned me without hesitation. Fortunately, I was prepared this time. Mr. Xiang, are you still there? The Shans have pulled out, and several other investors are showing signs of following suit. What should we do? I'm heading back to the office, I said calmly. Don't worry about the capital. I already have other plans. Before the Shans withdrew, I had secured 10 million in angel investment. Their pullout didn't leave too big of a gap. With the winter flu virus spreading rapidly, targeted medication and testing kits were in huge demand, and prices were soaring. The earlier you entered the market, the higher the returns. The angel investors recognized this opportunity. Combined with our company's solid product performance and strong recommendations through my alma mater's network, everything progressed steadily. There's no secret that stays hidden forever. When Shan Sua transferred the 20 million yuan divorce settlement into my private account, the story of how the Shan family used me to father an heir and then kicked me out exploded onto the trending charts overnight. Bad publicity was still publicity. I never expected it to bring our company so much attention. Some netizens mocked me for selling myself for 3 years in exchange for 20 million, while others sympathized, lamenting how even someone chosen like me was crushed by capital. But as the person at the center of the storm, public opinion didn't bother me much. Whether you're a minnow or a dragon ultimately depends on your own abilities. After discussions with my partners, we decided to go with the momentum and open company shares to the public. Many netizens who believed in us invested actively. We successfully weathered the first financial crisis after the Shan family's divestment. From there, our product's market share would decide our future. I devoted myself entirely to R&D and barely paid attention to Shan Sua again, until she called. That was when I learned the Shan family was drowning in a public opinion crisis. Their stock price had plummeted, and in desperation, they contacted me to hold a joint press conference to clarify matters. I refused outright. Shan Sua then tried to threaten me using our child. "Young man, after more than 3 years together, you're just going to walk away. I don't believe your feelings for me or our child were fake." The Shan family had been desperate for a male heir. When Shan Sua was 3 months pregnant, they confirmed it was a boy through both genetic testing and ultrasound, a double guarantee. Only then did they ruthlessly strip me of all authority within their companies. When I still didn't respond, Shan Sua panicked. "Young man, if you're willing to clarify the facts about our divorce, I'll personally invest more money into your company." The company was in its growth phase. Who would reject capital? At the press conference, a reporter asked bluntly, "Miss Shan, was your marriage to Mr. Xiang a contractual arrangement?" Shan Sua nudged my arm. I forced a smile and answered, "Those are just rumors. Miss Shan and I married for love. Due to differences in our career paths and personal issues, we divorced amicably. There were no other reasons." The reporter pressed again. "Then what about claims that the Shan family used Mr. Xiang solely to father a child?" "The Shan family had no need for such actions," I replied. "Besides, Miss Shan and I have a child together. I hope everyone can be more considerate with their words." My answers were vague and rambling, but the chapter of being discarded after serving my purpose was finally closed. When the conference ended, Qin Haiyu was waiting with a car, thoughtfully draping a coat over Shan Sua's shoulders. She smiled radiantly. In our 3 years of marriage, she had never smiled like that. I'd always thought she was simply cold and aloof. It turned out she had just never been happy with me. How ridiculous, it took dying once for me to finally see it. Qin Haiyu deliberately walked over. "Young man, know your place and stay away from Sua." I laughed softly. I wouldn't have thought the grandson of Rangjing's great scholar would stoop to being the other man just for fame and profit. "How are you any different from me? At least Shan Sua and I have a child together." That final sentence clearly enraged him. I usually wouldn't stoop to such pettiness, but since he insisted on provoking me, I saw no reason to back down. Shan Sua's sweet voice cut in softly, "Haiyu, let's go." It had been half a year since the divorce. To be honest, I hadn't completely let go of my feelings for Shiwa. After all, the emotions I poured into those 3 years were real. On my end, everything was going smoothly. In the blink of an eye, it was nearly Chinese New Year's Eve when the CO-19 virus suddenly broke out. Just hearing the word CO sent chills down people's spines, and the entire city went into an almost complete lockdown. Qin Haiyu's career was severely restricted. He could only rely on live streaming from home. For an influencer celebrity like him, constant public exposure was an unspoken rule for maintaining popularity. After marrying Shan Sua, Qin Haiyu moved into the Shan family mansion, with all his expenses covered by them. Boss Shan was admitted to the ICU with white lung, a severe form of pneumonia caused by the virus. As a result, control of the Shan family businesses was almost entirely handed over to Shan Sua. It was precisely at this moment that Qin Haiyu seized his opportunity, persuading Shan Sua to let him participate in the company's operations. Truth be told, many companies were struggling financially during the pandemic. Qin Haiyu knew nothing about business. But because he was skilled at pleasing Shan Sua, the other shareholders could only swallow their anger and dared not voice any objections. During this period, our company's R&D and production teams seized the opportunity. We ramped up both research and manufacturing of virus test kits and ECMO machines, pushing our company to become a leading enterprise in Roshing. When Shan Sua contacted me again, it was because Boss Shan's condition had deteriorated further, and she wanted to purchase the most advanced ECMO machine to support his treatment. I was a businessman, after all. There was no reason to refuse business that came knocking. When she saw me, tears streamed down Shan Sua's face, a truly heartbreaking sight. She was heavily pregnant, nearly full term, yet still exhausting herself for her father while the company's profits were plummeting. It was clear she was completely overwhelmed. "Mayan," she said, "I heard from some of the senior staff that your company has the most advanced ECMO machines. I want to buy one for my father's personal use." I sipped my tea without saying a word. Although Shan Sua had wronged me terribly, to be fair, Boss Shan had given me considerable support during my company's startup phase. Moreover, my current success was largely built on the resources I had secured early on by leveraging my status as the Shan family's son-in-law. Emotionally and rationally, I should help. Seeing my silence, Shan Sua grew anxious. "I know what I did. Kicking you out of the Shan family was despicable of me. But now a life is at stake. Can you please help me?" So she did understand that when a life was on the line, nothing else mattered. In my previous life, when I was drowning in debt, she had hired violent debt collectors who ultimately drove me to my death. None of that had happened in this life, so of course she didn't know. Even now, remembering it made my heart clench involuntarily with a sharp, familiar ache. The woman sitting before me was once the person I loved most. She and the man she now loved had conspired to kick me, the biological father of her child, out of their lives. "Shan Sua," I said, "an ECMO machine isn't a miracle cure. If Boss Shan's condition is too severe, it may not help much." I was only stating the truth. Even with the machine, whether he could ever be taken off it was another matter entirely. The Shan family might not be short on money, but money cannot always buy a life. When Shan Sua realized I had no intention of refusing outright, she actually knelt down and begged me. Moved by her filial devotion and pitying her situation, I arranged for one of the newest machines to be delivered to her as soon as the next batch left the factory. I had also planned to visit Boss Shan to check on his condition. Unexpectedly, at the Shan family mansion, I saw Chin Hayu punching and kicking Shan Sua. She was heavily pregnant, attacking her like that could have killed both her and the child. I rushed forward, yanked Chin Hayu away, and kicked him to the ground. He stared at me defiantly. "Xiang Mayan, what right do you have to interfere? Don't forget, the Shan family threw you out long ago." That was true. I really had no standing to protect Shan Sua. Seeing this, Shan Sua steadied herself against the railing, stood up, and wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth. "Chin Hayu, you despicable bastard. Just wait. You'll rot in jail for this." Less than half an hour later, the police took Chin Hayu away. I followed the ambulance with Shan Sua to the hospital. On the hospital bed, Shan Sua's face was frighteningly pale. The doctor addressed me, "Sir, the patient's pregnancy is unstable. She needs strict bed rest to protect the baby. Please prepare her belongings and be ready, she may go into labor at any moment." His words sent a cold sweat down my back. Shiua and I technically had no relationship anymore, but there was still a child between us. Shan Sua was extremely weak, clutching my hand and refusing to let go. "Mayan," she whispered, "I was wrong. I shouldn't have let someone as good as you go. Chin Hayu, he's nothing but a beast in human skin." From her tone, it was clear their marriage had not been going well. After she told me everything, I genuinely felt that this miserable pair truly deserved each other, and I was grateful I had escaped. After Chin Hayu got involved in the Shan family business, he repeatedly caused massive losses. Eventually, the shareholders jointly demanded that he be removed. Shan Sua was completely overwhelmed. Boss Shan was critically ill, and Chin Hayu was like a vicious wolf that had invaded their home. She had him investigated and discovered he had colluded with others to short the company's stock and embezzled funds overseas. Several Shan family companies were already on the brink of collapse. When Shan Sua gathered the evidence and prepared to sue him, Chin Hayu found out, and the violent scene I had witnessed unfolded. Shan Sua had been Boss Shan's pampered princess since childhood, cherished in the palm of his hand. When had she ever endured such humiliation? When the police came to the hospital to take her statement, her anger still hadn't subsided. She insisted on refusing any settlement and was determined to send Chin Hyu to prison. I sighed inwardly. People always believe the path they didn't choose would have been easier, but once they walk it, they discover endless disappointments. Even the best relationships, once secured, eventually become ordinary. On the 6th day of the Lunar New Year, Shan Sua went into labor. Chin Hyu, out on bail and still under investigation, stubbornly refused to sign the consent form for her epidural. The Shan family housekeeper frantically called me. No matter what Shan Sua had done, the child was still mine. I rushed to the hospital and ended up in another fight with Chin Hyu right outside the delivery room. The police hauled both of us to the station. As a result, I missed seeing Shan Sua and the baby when they came out. The housekeeper later called to tell me it was a boy. The Shan family finally had an heir. They named him Shan Shuran. After old master Shan recovered, he held a lavish banquet and even transferred ownership of a prime commercial building in Roshing to the baby. When the Shan family learned I had fought Chin Hyu to ensure Shan Sua received her epidural, they began treating me with renewed respect. Some time later, after I had just closed a deal with a client, Shan Sua came to see me holding the baby. Pandemic restrictions had eased, and the city was slowly emerging from lockdown. Early spring brought unpredictable weather, warm one moment, chilly the next. The baby was incredibly soft and pink. He had my eyes, but the rest of his features resembled Shan Sua. Chubby and adorable, he softened my heart the moment I looked at him. Shan Sua was in the middle of a bitter and chaotic divorce battle with Chin Hyu. Trying to get him thrown behind bars was proving far more difficult than she had expected. Worry lines etched her brow, and she no longer carried the confident, almost defiant air she'd had when she first filed for divorce. "Myun," she said hesitantly, "are you free? Maybe we could get something to eat." I was about to refuse, but the baby was so adorable that I found myself agreeing without realizing it. Noticing how fond I seemed of the child, Shan Sua asked cautiously, "Mayan, what do you think about his custody? Would you want him?" I was completely baffled. She had faked a loving marriage with me for 3 years just to have this child. She had endured immense pain to give birth to him. Why on earth would she suddenly offer me custody? I immediately suspected the Shun family was facing serious trouble. With genuine concern, I asked, "What happened?" She shook her head. "Nothing like that. I just feel sorry for him growing up without a father." Before I could fully process her words, she added softly, "My father thinks we should reconcile, give our son a proper family." So that was her real agenda. I handed the baby back to the maternity nurse, then sat up straight, my expression turning serious as I faced Shan Sua. She was undeniably beautiful, with a flawless figure, but her sense of reason was utterly lacking. "I, Jiang Mayan, am not some piece of trash left by the roadside for you to pick up and discard whenever it suits you," I said coldly. "Your divorce isn't even finalized, and you're already trying to reconcile with your ex-husband. You certainly don't waste any time." Shan Sua clearly heard the sarcasm, but she wasn't offended. Instead, she smiled faintly. "I know you're successful now, Mayan. The man you've become, you're finally worthy of me." Just as I thought. This woman was utterly heartless. If I were still the penniless nobody I used to be, even if her relationship with Chin Hyu had completely collapsed, she wouldn't have spared me a second glance. I stood up. "So now I'm worthy of you?" I asked. "Is that it? But what makes you think, Shan Sua, that I would still want you?" She played her trump card. "Our son can take your surname," she said quickly. "We can name him Jiang Shuran." Shun Shuran. Jiang Shuran. What was the difference? Either name would be a constant reminder of how she had used me for 3 years just to have a child, only to kick me out the moment her goal was achieved. "I don't need that," I said flatly. His surname can be whatever you want. It has nothing to do with me. As I turned to leave, Shan Sua shouted after me, Jiang Mayan, you're truly heartless. The public feud between Shan Sua and Qin Haiyu quickly became the hottest topic in Roqing. Netizens buzzed with heated discussions, most of them siding with me. Everyone's different, but Jiang Mayan is a real man. He made a clean break, no hesitation. Qin Haiyu's just a pretty boy. He could never stand on his own. Good thing I backed the right horse with my investment. Jiang Mayan's company stock kept climbing, while the Shun family's value continued to plunge. While the internet feasted on the drama, I kept my head down and focused on business with my partners. Opportunities are fleeting, miss them, and they're gone forever. Our test kits and ECMO machines were selling exceptionally well overseas. I had no time or energy left to dwell on being kicked out by the Shun family. On my return flight home, I ran into Qin Haiyu. Once a glamorous celebrity, he was now disgraced, banned from domestic performances and forced to tour underdeveloped regions abroad just to maintain some exposure. During the pandemic, those meager performance fees barely covered his constant travel expenses. Jiang Mayan, he sneered, no matter how successful you become, you'll never wash away the stain of being the Shun family's live-in son-in-law. So what? I replied calmly. Unwilling to give up, Qin Haiyu pressed on. You only had a child with Shan Sua. Do you really think she loved you? She was sleeping with me even before you divorced. I hadn't expected that, but there was no point dwelling on it. I glanced at my newspaper and replied leisurely, so what if she loved you? She still did everything she could to send you to prison. At least I'm free now, aren't I? Qin Haiyu's face turned ashen. He gasped in rage, completely losing control, hurling curses right there on the plane. He was simply asking for it. We could have had a quiet flight, but he insisted on provoking trouble. Who else could he blame? The moment we landed, the police took Qin Haiyu away. They had finally gathered enough evidence to arrest and prosecute him. That was Shan Sua for you, swift and decisive, just like when she divorced me. No hesitation, no mercy. As Qin Haiyu was dragged away, he shot me a venomous glare, as if I were the one who had destroyed his so-called blissful romance. He was pitiful, but also detestable. He brought everything upon himself. He should have known long ago, being a stepfather was no easy role. Shan Sua treasured that child above all else, yet he dared to punch and kick her in the abdomen. Locking him up was already Shan Sua's final act of mercy. Too bad Qin Haiyu would never understand. He believed it was all my revenge for him stealing my wife. Let him think whatever he wanted. I didn't have time for his delusions. Qin Haiyu ultimately ended up in prison amid the messy and public feud between him and Shan Sua. She emerged as the clear winner. The Qin family spent a fortune, but still couldn't get him out. No one had expected Shan Sua's once all-consuming love affair to end so disgracefully. For the child's 100-day celebration, the Shun family planned an extravagant banquet. Boss Shun sent an invitation directly to my company. The receptionist handed it to me with a meaningful look. Within an hour, everyone in the office knew I had been invited to the Shun family's celebration. Whispers spread quickly, this must be the Shun family signaling reconciliation. Shan Sua, who had deleted me on WeChat long ago, added me back. Mayan, she messaged, I hope you can come to the child's 100-day celebration. I never deluded myself into thinking she genuinely wanted me back. But as it turned out, that was exactly what she had in mind. While I was holding the child and playfully teasing him, Boss Shun approached with a glass of wine. Mayan, he said warmly, I've always been a good judge of character. Look at you now, one of Rongqing's top entrepreneurs. RCU is a lucky woman. Men as capable as you, who are also loyal to their wives, are rare these days. Many guests overheard his words and cast amused glances in our direction. Shan Sua stood nearby in a tailored white mermaid gown, dazzling enough to turn heads. Mayan, look, she said softly. The child really looks like you. I didn't respond. She continued coaxing the baby. When you grow up, you must be as handsome and accomplished as your daddy, okay? Then she shot me a meaningful look. I pretended not to understand. He shouldn't grow up to be like me, I said calmly. A live-in son-in-law who gets kicked out without warning. Imagine how devastated his mother would be. An unnatural smile flickered across Shan Sua's face. She pulled me to a seat. Mayan, you were so good to me before. I know you loved me. You're being so cold now, it's intentional, isn't it? You want to win me back, right? Whatever arrogance Shan Sua once had was long gone after her failed marriage to Qin Haiyu. You're overthinking, I replied. I didn't come here to reconcile. As you said, this is all for the child. I stood up to leave, but she grabbed my sleeve. Mayan, are you still angry with me? She asked. I did try to build a life with you, but you treated me like an obligation, cold, distant, almost emotionless. Qin Haiyu knew how to sweet-talk women. Anyone in my position would have chosen him. She was right. Compared to me, Qin Haiyu was better at winning hearts. He was good-looking, fun-loving, and charming. What young woman doesn't dream of romance? Even Shan Sua, who had been pampered her entire life, was no exception. As for me, I was a man of few words, utterly clueless about grand romantic gestures. My only focus had been managing the Shun family business. I believed that easing her burdens and taking meticulous care of everything was love, that it would sustain our marriage. But I was wrong. What Shan Sua truly wanted was emotional connection and romance, things I never gave her. It was only then that I finally understood. My devotion had been completely misplaced. What I offered was never what she needed. Once I realized that, a strange sense of peace washed over me. Mayan, Shan Sua pleaded softly, can't we let the past go? Let's start over and raise him together. No, I said quietly. What you want, I still can't give. As I left the Shun residence, the weight on my shoulders finally lifted. There was no turning back for Shan Sua and me. Even with a child tying us together, our paths were destined to diverge. Over the next year, she called me countless times. I never answered once. When the pandemic finally eased, the real estate market plunged into an ice age. The bubble burst, and the Shun family fell from grace. After all, their fortune had always been built on real estate. Now, their cash flow had completely dried up. Property values had plunged, and everywhere you looked, the Shun family's properties, seized to cover construction debts, were being listed for foreclosure auctions. I later heard through the grapevine that Shan Sua had left the country and was now working as a dancer in small independent theaters overseas. Rumor had it she had been blacklisted as a debtor back home, restricted from luxury spending, and hounded relentlessly by creditors. Unable to endure the harassment, she fled abroad. Wasn't this karma, a swift and fitting retribution? Still, in my previous life, my creditors had never given me the chance to escape overseas. Compared to me, Shan Sua was already fortunate enough to find refuge abroad. I thought our paths would never cross again. But then I received a text from an unfamiliar number, hers. The child had acute myeloid leukemia and urgently needed a hematopoietic stem cell transplant. Shan Sua wasn't a match. The child was innocent in all of this. I booked the next flight to Los Angeles to get tested. When I saw him lying in the hospital bed, pale and riddled with needle marks, my heart tightened. He looked pitiful beyond words. When he saw me, he looked at Shan Sua and asked in a small, trembling voice, "Mommy, is he daddy?" He was my son, after all. My nose prickled suddenly, and my voice shook as I said, "Daddy's here." The boy stared at me for a moment, then burst into tears. Unable to hold back, I stroked his head gently, soothing him. "Don't be afraid," I said softly. "Everything will be okay. You'll be home soon." The test results came back. I was a match. I successfully donated my hematopoietic stem cells to Annan Shuran. Shan Sua thanked me over and over again. Jiang Mayan, thank you. This means everything to me. I looked at her. She was barely in her early 30s, yet life had worn her down so badly that there was no trace left of her former aristocratic elegance. It can't be easy surviving in Los Angeles, can it? I asked. She avoided my gaze as she changed her clothes and answered curtly, I'll leave him in your care then. I have a show tonight. I need to go. Neither of us had ever imagined we would end up walking such drastically different paths. Later, my assistant called. Mr. Jiang, the Shun family's old estate, and the house you once shared with Miss Shan, your former marital home, are both up for auction. What are your instructions? Buy them, I said. Have them cleaned. I'll be back in a while. And leave all the furnishings as they are. That night, in his sleep, the child murmured softly, Daddy. Daddy. Shan Sua might have brought some of her suffering upon herself, I thought. But Annan, he was just a child. He didn't deserve to be dragged through her turbulent life. Annan's condition gradually improved, and we were able to return to our country for further treatment. Shan Sua packed my bags and prepared to see me off. Jiang Mayan, she said quietly, I received all the money you sent. I nodded and said nothing. She continued, the building under Annan's name is still there. If you're willing, you can take him to live with you. To her credit, Shan Sua was still a responsible mother. Even when she was struggling financially, she never once thought of abandoning her child. Human nature is truly complex. She could forsake her family for love, yet when she fell on hard times and needed money, she never sold the property registered under her child's name for quick relief. A woman may be gentle by nature, but a mother is strong. Perhaps I was only beginning to understand this now. Afraid that I wouldn't agree, she hurriedly added, he'll have a better life with you. I won't disturb you. I asked her, and what about you? She froze for a moment, not understanding at first. What if I take him back with me? I asked. What will you do? I'll keep dancing here, she replied quietly. It's fine here. I interrupted her. Come back with me. She looked up, startled. I bought the Shun family house, I continued. You and Annan can live there. It had been nearly 2 years since our divorce. The first time I called her Sua again, I couldn't quite describe the feeling. Perhaps it was because I had always remembered her as radiant and graceful, and I couldn't bear to see her brought so low. In the end, Shan Sua returned with me. When she opened the door to the Shun family home, she silently broke down in tears, perhaps overwhelmed by the painful realization that while the place remained, everything else had changed beyond repair. If anything's missing, I said, I'll have someone send it over. I'll also be there for all of Annan's follow-up treatments. Shan Sua grew quiet and reserved, nothing like her former self. I didn't say much more. This was all I could do for her now. The wounds of the past still remained. Pity couldn't erase them. We would never return to what we once were. That we could maintain this level of civility now was solely because of Annan Shuran between us. I was just an ordinary father, hoping my child would live a good life, and that, by extension, his mother wouldn't suffer too much. That was all. In the tides of this era, I had seized my opportunities and set my startup firmly on the right path. Now that things were stable again, it was time to seek new ventures and new directions. As for matters of the heart, they were like drifting clouds. It was best to let nature take its course.